Rocks fans, welcome back to week dose of your training camp report and also your family night recap as well. Coming to you live from right across the street from Lambeau Field once again until the calendar turns and I can't bundle up enough to fight the cold weather, but we're here from Titletown Flats, also the state directly below Illinois. And Dave,
It's
welcome.
actually above. You're above me.
I meant for you coming down from the state below, but
Ah,
uh,
I feel you
we
now.
we may show some signs from last night and dealing with the hangovers from. Anyways, Packers on the Rocks fans, welcome to week 2. Cheers, Dave.
Yeah, cheers, buddy.
To the hair of the dog.
Yeah, you're holding up pretty well for the eventful family night. I mean, it's packed house always. It's fun. I was there for Roger's first family night. I couldn't make it up to Love's first family night, so I guess that's kind of a good place to start. Just in general, I mean, we could somewhat work our way back. I know we talked about working our way forward, but I just want to get one quick thing. We all know that Rogers reports on his first family night was kind of the reception with Love on his first family night.
I thought it was really good. Love had a similar type performance to Rogers in the '08 family night, but the reception was great. 73,000 fans in the stadium, as expected. Tons of families with their even like newborn kids that were in the stands. I think football was secondary, and the music, the balls bouncing around. But yeah, I think Love had a really positive reception. People are embracing him, and I don't think there was any sort of hold back on let's do a wait and see approach. It's like, no, let's get behind number 10.
Because from everything I've kind of heard from you and everything I've been kind of stalking online, it was a rocky week this week. There was plenty of ups. There's wild moments, and there was those very hard pills to swallow, like kind of struggles of. There's probably anxious moments of, can you guys just get moving? Like, show us a little bit of promise here.
Yeah, one of the best ways to sum it up. So like I get inside Lambeau. It's always just like any other, and when we come for when you come for week 4, it'll always be the same goosebumps feeling. Like definitely an added level of energy. Don't even need an energy drink or anything like that. But sit in my seat, like there's families around. It kind of brings it back like some of the first couple times at Lambeau. Family sit next to me. I'll be that person like, hey, do you want me to take a picture of you and your family to document it? There's like this 10-year-old kid sitting next to me too. I'm like, it was right around your age that I became infatuated with the Packers and Love Story took off. So took a picture of them, like meeting up family night, and then the offense takes the field and goes through some of their woes, and then the family doesn't hear a peep out of me the rest of the night. But I think the best way to put it is, so I was sort of in a different vibe, watching the offense and how they performed. And then I leave right before the fireworks hit because I want to go back to Titletown to watch them, which they were awesome.
Nice.
And probably one of the best ways to watch Lambeau. But right as soon as I'm leaving the stadium and getting into the atrium, I turn to my left and I'm like, that's Ahman Green standing out there with 2 other people by himself, no fans around. I'm like, this is too good to be true. Go up there. I'm like, Ahman, what are you doing? Hanging out, or around us common folk and not down there on the field. Like, yeah, I got a couple buddies up here. I'm like, hey, you could also be out here the way we play tonight. He's like, hey, man, it's a young, inexperienced team. You're going to have that. Be patient with it. And we've talked about it a lot, but it was a nice sort of friendly reminder from the Packers GOAT for running backs. Seeing him, he mentioned to hit him up on Twitter. So, Dave, I could leave that one up to you since I don't have a Twitter account. But, yeah, I got to see Ahman Green, even Mark Murphy, too. I don't know why he decided to open up the gate and walk up the aisle towards my section. I don't know if that's the quickest path to his seat, but watch him walk up the aisle, wave to a couple fans. I'm like, he's probably going to get bombarded with people asking for pictures. And then stood by the exit where he would go out from the aisle. And I'm like, hey, Mark, can I get a quick selfie? He's like, oh, yeah, sure thing. It's the only person who asked him for a picture. But, I mean, those are some of the more positives I had from the family night scrimmage. But the offense, though, that's a different story that I'll try to remain upbeat about.
Yeah, I mean, you're there, you watched it. I was trying to get the stream. They're pretty hush hush and buttoned up when it comes to streaming family night. In terms of if you get tickets, scouts can go because it's a paid practice, but I guess they don't want to just blatantly put it on the broadcast so that anyone could get film on them, where that's their approach to it. That's kind of their press conference that they released for why it wasn't up, was they don't want a competitive advantage going away with a new scheme, new offense, new quarterback coming in. So I just had to kind of rely on the fans kind of tweeting it out. You texted me what was going on. So it sounded like it was pretty rocky to begin with, but then they kind of found their footing towards later in the day. There's a couple of good throws to Reed. Musgrave had a really good showing up the seam a couple of times. Watson with a couple of contested catches. Dobbs beating Jair a few times. So there's bright spots, but yeah, there's going to be some rocky roads there. I don't think we're thinking it's going to be a, Rodgers from 2011 season, but as long as they show promise and kind of slowly mature as the season goes on, I'm all for it.
I think there's still installations being had on offense in family night and still to come, so that could be part of why they don't want to stream it. And
yeah,
but yes, as far as like the ones versus ones, it really took up until their final 2-minute drive for them to get anything together. There was checkdowns in the flats that were missed. There was false starts on offense. It was clunky, Dave. I was coming into it with the expectations of, all right, the pieces of the puzzle will start to come together on family night. They're going to take a step forward. Everything that we've seen in practice up until now, you're going to see somewhat of a fluid offense going out there, but just wasn't the case. If anything, I thought it was a step back at family night, and Love just didn't look really all too comfortable. I mean, the bright spots were, I thought Musgrave had a good family night, like you mentioned, up the seam. Even Tucker Kraft had a touchdown, and really the star of the entire night. And I'll take a little bit of credit for it, but is Malik Heath, who has been balling out during training camp practices, and he had, I mean, if you put it all together, over 100 yards on the night. One for sure touchdown. The second one, I think that you could have blown the play dead for a sack. I couldn't quite tell who the defender was, but he was the one person that I thought was head and shoulders above anybody else when the bright lights came on, and he came to play.
Yeah, that'll be because Musgrave's been having some kind of things with the drops and stuff like that, but everyone's been raving about his speed and kind of that seam route he's been running. So if they have Watson on the outside, Musgrave on the inside, you're going to have to pick your poison, whether you want to shadow Watson or you want to leave Musgrave one-on-one with just either a linebacker or just one safety. So, I mean, there's definitely good problems to be had there. It's just whether or not we can execute.
Yeah, and we talked about it last Saturday that there's going to be a camp battle potentially between Samori Toure and Jayden Reed.
Yeah.
This whole week, including family night, Jayden Reed's getting all of those one reps. And I think that he's sort of cementing himself as wide receiver 3. He had I thought, a pretty good family night, couple catches over the middle, and he looks pretty sure-handed on punt returns. I think that it's his job to lose at this point. And he doesn't even look like a rookie out there. Like, you don't see any sort of like hesitation when he's out there running routes or he's in the wrong spot, like a past third round wide receiver pick that we've had. So I thought he played fairly well on offense. And then on defense, somebody that's been shining. And until they can actually tackle and sack the quarterback, then you'll truly know, is Kingsley JJ Enagbare. He's had pressures all throughout the practices, and then family, and I caught him a couple of times. I'm like, yeah, you probably would have blown that play down where he comes up and taps the red jersey as if that's a sack. But he's somebody I think that's having a pretty strong camp so far.
Yeah, and some guy that's kind of blown up on the scene in the last 4 days, which I think everyone should really pay attention to in the preseason because he's gonna start eating up some snaps. Is Carl Brooks? There's been a lot of noise around him, kind of filling the gap in run, and then getting some pressures on the quarterback or would be sacks because they blow it dead. You don't want Jordan Love going out from Carl Brooks knocking that man down. But yeah, he's kind of a guy to watch. Now, is it Brooks or is it kind of some offensive line issues that we've been hearing rumblings about and seeing stuff? Because um, there's definitely at least one, possibly two positions up for grabs on that offensive line that's people might not be paying too much attention to.
Yeah, and I think a part of why Love didn't look comfortable last night had to come down to the offensive line. There was at times, and when I go back and look at it, that he's has a second team offensive line in front of him. I saw Royce Newman out there. Even when I went back and watched a highlight, he got pancaked. Couldn't quite tell who the defensive player is because that got all their jerseys bunched up and you can't see the numbers. But yeah, whether it's him or even I think Lucas Van Ness had a decent pass rush that frazzled Jordan Love, and I think that was against Zach Tom. One of the sort of bulletin board materials that we have this week is Zach Tom getting reps at center and
Yeah.
Josh Myers having some struggles with snaps that's carried over from last year into this year, and there's some pressure on his heels.
So I got a training stat for you. We're going deep dive into this. There's been 5 missed snaps in preseason or in OTAs. The quarterback has been a revolving door with these snaps. There is one constant with all 5 botched snaps, and that is Josh Myers being the one snapping them.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's also been a lot of interior pressure where a lot of the stuff that I'm seeing in clips and people talking is kind of the tackles are locking things down and Love's just getting pressure up the middle. That's when he's feeling it. So that's leading you to guards. And I don't think Jenkins has a problem. So that's leaving you with either, right guard or center.
Yeah, and Jenkins and Bach did have the night off. I'm
Yeah.
okay with that. I don't even know if we need to see them the rest of training camp. I wouldn't put them in a preseason game really, but
No.
it's like as fans, Dave, how do we look at it? Like when I was texting you last night, you're like strong showing by the defense.
Yeah, right?
It's like all right, well, defense had a great night because on the flip side of that, it's like you hear a lot of good things about Devontae Wyatt so far.
Yes.
Him winning his one-on-ones, and I really like that LaFleur is doing these featured camp battles where they pick like an offensive lineman, defensive lineman, and sort of call them out before the practice begins. But yeah, whether it's Carl Brooks blowing it up or Devontae Wyatt have a strong show, yeah, it's the interior so far. And
Yeah.
I mean, it's hard to say if John Runt or JRJ's having a tough go at it for camp, but defensive lineman's getting the best of them.
They seem to like to put Royce out there for whatever reason. It's still kind of, myths me with why they put Royce. I feel like I've seen enough of Royce, but Myers is a guy that LaFleur has said countless times. He's a talented guy. He shows promise, but he's just inconsistent. Well, you can't have an inconsistent center.
No, and I thought that was a lot of. I mean, in seasons past, you even hear Aaron get caught on the hot mic, complaining to Josh Myers with not snapping the ball off quickly enough. There could be something to that, and fans will quickly remind Brian Gutekunst that Creed Humphreys was drafted very shortly after by the Chiefs and has already made an All-Pro. Hey, you can't hit on every single player. I still have a ton of faith in Josh Myers. I think when you get him in space, rolling out on outside runs and have him pulling, he does exceptionally well. But yeah, there's just maybe 5 times a game where it's like, hey man, what's going on here? Is there a mental lapse going on?
Yeah, I'm kind of, if he's not really panning out. I mean, he's a high pick, so maybe if it's not working out at center, you move him to right guard, right? Maybe you put Tom there or someone in there that can handle the communication, handle all the information being thrown at him, and also deal with his assignment. Myers, maybe this is just assumption. Maybe Myers is having a hard time communicating to everyone, and then remembering the snap count, remembering the cadence and all that stuff, and then dealing with his own assignment. Maybe it's just too much information for him.
Yeah, and he's whatever the case may be, we need to get it down before we head to Soldier Field. Not as if they're the loudest stadium in the NFL, but
Right.
you're going to have some crowd noise to deal with and the silent snap count.
But let's hit on some positives here. So
Zach Tom, I thought's look good. He's added weight over the offseason. He's getting his meals in. They say that he's going to be much better against the run since he can anchor in and drive defensive linemen backs. I think he's looking good so far. That's not a surprise, though. I don't think that you'd be taken back that you hear that Zach Tom, ever since he was inserted as a rookie, he looks the part. He's like Corey Lensley from day one. He gets it.
It's hard to be Elton, right? But he might be like a poor man's Elton Jenkins. He can play everywhere. He holds his own. Like, you don't really have to worry about him too much. I like Tom a lot. Guy to watch is Caleb Jones. Big dude. Can play tackle. And haven't really heard much from Yash either. So there's some good problems to have along the offensive line. There's just, everyone has a weak link or two.
Yeah, it's unfortunate that Bach only practices like every other, because we're not seeing a ton of reps by Yash at right tackle where he's truly competing at. Zach Tom's getting them, and then when Bach is out, Yash Nyman's in at left. So I think that's a tell that's going to be your swing tackle, and Zach's going to hold down the fort on right.
Yeah, I think Yash is. They paid him for insurance policies. I think Yash is strictly your left tackle, and if Bach plays, Yash is probably going to be out of the lineup, and they just paid him all that money to basically be like, if Bach goes out with an injury, you're in.
And you're spot on with Caleb Jones. You see him in training camp. Boy, does he look the part. He's head and shoulders above everybody else, and you got to find a way to get him on the 53-man roster. And
he will.
If we take a page out of Shanahan's book, what he did against us with Trent Williams, put Caleb Jones in the backfield in a goal line package like BJ Raji, or have him lined up as a fullback and just get a full head of steam and use him as a blocker.
Yeah, if anyone's seen Game of Thrones, he is the Mountain from Game of Thrones. Big, strong dude he can move some people.
That's a good comparison. You wouldn't think that you can build football players like that and it can move quite as well, and be able to get into a good set.
So we haven't done too much of this, and I kind of want to get a little bit into it. Is when you're a young team and an inexperienced team and you have mistakes, it's going to come down to special teams. So I kind of want to do the more consistent one first. I'm actually going to go, sound super boring. We're going to talk about punters. There's actually an interesting battle going on right now. We have O'Donnell, who was last year's. We paid him money to come back, and he did okay. I think he ranked his rankings sound worse than he did. He's like 29th and 30th in like net and hang time and stuff like that. I don't recall too many like, oh my God, why are we punting it there? Or that's a terrible punt moments, but he just wasn't consistent enough. And we brought in a guy from, I think it's the Canadian Football League, to kind of compete with him. And he's booming some things. 5+ hang time, getting it out there 50, 51 yards. Like, I think he's averaging like 48 or 49 during camp right now. But it comes down to holding, because there's inconsistency with the kicker right now. And I guess he's been having trouble with holding, which wasn't one of his job responsibilities before.
Dave, you're going to talk about punters. I'm going to excuse myself, go grab another drink.
There you go. Go
let me know when you come back. No, I think I texted you about Daniel Whelan. And
yeah, I like him a lot.
My dad was telling me yesterday he was the USFL MVP for punters, or whatever sort of award they give out to the Wee Fence in the USFL. Yeah, there's been a number of punts that the punt returners had to back up 5 yards, or the ball's gone over his head. Now, we don't want to outkick our coverage, but yeah, you hear it from the crowd too. That's been alarmingly quiet, like a Broadway show that you've mentioned during training camp practice. That's the one time that you'll get them to actually make any sort of noise when you watch that ball. Skyrocketing up in the air, and the punt returner having to back up. Pat O'Donnell, you got to watch. But it's also like we've had Bojo in the past who did the same exact thing. can
Yeah.
you trust this guy to punt in the cold weather? Like, is it going to be enough when he's having a little bit of struggles on holding the snaps? Are you going to trust him come December and being able to have those same type of punts? But oh yeah, Daniel Whelan, he's one of those undrafted guys that's stood out just as much as anybody else so far. And he even had a punt at family night where Jordan Love and the QBs are doing the net throws.
Mm-hmm.
I saw Jordan Love make one net throw from like 2 yards out. It was all right. And then also Magoo, who we picked up from another league, he had like a 40-yard net throw that was in. But when they were doing that, here's Daniel Whelan on the other side of the field punting and almost hitting one of the quarterbacks because of how far his punt went. You're like, all right, we should have enough space over on the other 50, but his ball floated over there. And yeah, Pat O'Donnell maybe thought there was just an extra camp leg coming in, but no, this is somebody that I think Brian Gutekunst has to consider for that 53.
I think Packer fans appreciate they're knowledgeable about special teams based on all the heartbreak that has been done to us purely from the special teams. So they have a unique knowledge that probably other fan bases don't have to it. And then you have Carlson, which, golly, man. I mean, he had a good family night.
Looked really good.
I wouldn't mind if they brought in a leg just to be like, we're gonna push you a little bit. I mean, he's at like 60% makes right now with his good showing in family night, but
that upped his percentage.
Yeah, he's a big leg guy, but he's just all over the map.
Yeah, he'll miss from left in practice. He'll miss from right. Saturday was pretty tough for him. Some of these players, it's like it's a microcosm of how camp's been going so far. A lot of ups and downs outside of people like Jaden Reed, who's been super consistent, and Malik Heath, who's been very consistent. Even Carring Valentine's sort of settled back down to earth, and I've seen him get beat by Bo Melton and a couple of others. But I thought Honors did really well at family night. But so far, it's like, hey, if you've got 90-something spots, why not bring in an additional leg when I know there's been people like Jonathan Garvin being let go and then a couple of others? What's it hurt to bring in some competition that we're always preaching?
Yeah. Yeah, there's a couple of, I mean, you only have so many spots you want to look at and so much money to do it. There's a couple of spots out there that I wish they kind of brought in guys just to kind of test the waters with. But it sounds like they're kind of making adjustments as they go of putting guys into not different spots, but putting backups into starter roles and kind of testing the waters there. Like Owen started next to Savage, and they're
About
just kind
time it took 5 practices to get there before they're swapping out Ford or Savage.
Yeah, I know. They're just,
Tell you what, Jonathan Owens, he did have a really good pass breakup in the 2-minute drill where he jumped in front of like a post route. He's somebody that looks the part. He's pretty well put together. He had 120 something tackles for the Texans, so we don't have to worry about him whiffing. I think he could be an Adrian Amos sure tackler. I don't know how much playmaking ability he brings in the interception department. But yeah, he finally got to rep with the ones. I haven't seen Tarvarius Moore repping with the ones so far, but this is, I mean, what you want to be testing out in camp so far.
You know who I'm actually excited for, and people probably forgot this guy, Tariq Carpenter. I think he can make a really good 3 linebacker, and you throw him out there in a certain package. I mean, he just moved from safety to linebacker, so it's almost like having 3 safeties out there. You know, you can run with certain guys more than others. More than your traditional linebacker, I should say.
He's going to be our Raven Green.
That's a good call right there. That's a good good callback right there. I like it. Yeah.
I know Raven Green was your guy. I want to say it.
He was
at some point. He was a favorite of yours, and I don't know if you caught the highlight, but Tariq Carpenter did have an interception last night that he dropped back into coverage, picked off one of the backups. I want to say it was Clifford. And there's another one that was a catch by Tay Wicks. That got the ball hit out of his hand, and he just happened to be at the right spot at the right time and picked it up and ran with it. And we all know that he's he's a special teams ace. He does really well on kickoffs. He's a good blocker. And Brian Gutekunst said in his press conference this week in regards to running back 3, you need to be really good at pass pro and you have to contribute on teams. And if you have somebody like a Dallin Levitt or a Tariq Carpenter, I think they have a roster spot on lock just based upon their special teams abilities.
Yeah, this is kind of a team right now based on versatility. The more kind of things you can do, the more you have it kind of locked down, because we're still trying to purge ourselves and get back into a good financial setting. So they're going to just take guys at this point of, oh, you can play safety, you can play linebacker, you can play special teams for us. Like, okay, you got a spot just because you can do 3 jobs in one.
Yep. Swiss Army knives. You want to
Yep.
know how to make our 53? The more you can do.
Perfect.
I like that. I like the Tariq Carpenter. You're right. He is somebody that's been overshadowed and overlooked, and you're not seeing a ton of headlines about him here so far in camp, or even too much about our inside backers itself. Quay did drop an interception by Jordan Love this week in practice. Great read by him. Had his hands on it, but just couldn't corral it and bring it in. And it's still, hey, until you can actually tackle, you'll know whether or not. But I've seen him take A.J. Dillon to the ground a couple times. Like, I thought you're supposed to just,
Fumble.
give him, wrap up and then let him go. But he's decided to take quad man to the ground.
So I got one guy for you that I haven't heard much about. I'm not overly concerned about him just because he's been a stalwart for us, but Preston Smith. You seen anything, hearing anything? Just quiet camp, doing his thing?
He's been quiet. So he's been quiet. LVN's been quiet. He's also figuring it out, where I'm going to give him like a red shirt year. I think he's going to do really good at setting the edge and the run game, but he's going to be like Rashawn Gary, that it's going to take him time to develop some pass rush moves. Like, I haven't seen a ton of wins on his side. JJ Kingsley Enagbare is the only pass rusher that stood out so far. But yeah, Preston's been pretty quiet. And then so far, Brenton Cox Jr., too, the undrafted guy out of Florida.
Yeah.
That was like a 5-star recruit out of college. He was in a couple different top programs, including Georgia. I haven't seen a whole heck of a lot out of him either. But yeah, Preston, he's now on he's hitting 30 or the wrong side of 30.
Yeah.
That you sort of want to keep an eye on. And Rashawn Gary, I haven't seen him doing full-on sprints, where it's making me think that he's going to be on that 4-week IR to begin the season.
You might have to help me out with the name here. Who's the guy that we picked up? UDF. He was had some off-the-field issues when we got him, and like a whole bunch of people were excited about him. The name is blanking me.
It's not Brenton Cox?
No, I thought it is. It's Cox. My bad. I was thinking about Wooden, because I've heard some good things about Wooden too. So Wooden's from Auburn. Yeah, it's Cox. Cox is the UDF. Yeah.
Yep. I haven't seen any flashes thus far. Now, preseason games, different story, and they're going to get a ton of snaps. So there's their moment to make an impact on the team. But yeah, I haven't seen too much. The one guy that every single practice, family night too, Malik Heath, you are my Sam Shields this year. Touchdown, Jesus.
See, you're Jeff Janis.
Yeah, Jeff Janis, you name it. Tremont Williams, even so. I mean, we're 2 weeks in, so something, he could come back down to earth.
Your Kumaro.
Your Kumaro. But I mean, every single practice, this guy is making plays. He's 6'2". He has really good hands. He creates separation. He's from an SEC school. Family night with his catches. My camp darling, and somebody that I'm surprised I haven't seen too many headlights about, is Malik Heath. Heads and shoulders, I think, above the rest, locking up that wide receiver 5 position. And he's big enough to play teams, so the more you can do, I think he's got a big enough body to contribute in other areas.
Yeah, I don't think they're going 7 wide receivers, so I think you're stuck with max 6. So that leaves Wicks, Melton, a couple other guys, but how it's one of my favorite packages, but with Enagbare stepping up, do you see a lot more NASCAR?
Not yet, no. I mean, it's been pretty traditional so far. I think, though, once Rashawn Gary comes back, and you brought it up before, like the PFF statistics on JJ and how well he did as a rookie with his limited snaps and pressures, that you got to find a way to get this guy on the field. He's a sophomore that you can tell he put in work over the offseason. Like, he comes off the ball really quick, around the edge, tagging the quarterback. That you got to find ways on third down to have him be that Mike Neal from 2014.
Yeah, I think that's the most exciting part about this team is that front seven, because once Gary's back fully healthy, you will have so many fresh legs, and you can put guys out for as few snaps or as many snaps as you want throughout that whole front seven of just rotating guys with Van Ness, Gary, Preston, Inikbare. Just keep rotating them in and out, and you just have a constant wave of pass rushers. Obviously, Kenny's always going to be there, but then the rest of the guys, Wooden, Cox, Brooks, those guys, you could just constantly just keep throwing them at them.
Yeah, we're going to be strong getting up the field and penetrating the quarterback. It's just still the run defense that I'm skeptical about, that I'm still concerned so far. That do we have anybody outside of TJ that can anchor in against the run and eat up blockers, so then he keeps our inside backers clean at the same time? But yeah, we're not as deep as the Eagles. I've never seen a team quite as deep as they are in the defensive front seven, but yeah, the more you can rotate these pass rushers inside and out and keep them clean, I'm all for it.
Any other news, notes?
Yeah, one thing that just came to mind as a bright spot, and this just the offense not on the same page. There's overthrows, checkdowns were missed, like I mentioned at family night, but it will sync up. I'm still pretty confident that it takes him back to like the first couple plays on offense. He's I still think that number one cornerback in the league. He's ranked number 24th in the NFL players this year. Jair Alexander, part of Strap City, with his great sell-it-selly move. He got beat twice on a go route by Romeo Doubs last night. One of them, Romeo had a step on him. It was a bit of an underthrow by J Love. But the second one, he had 3 steps on Jair Alexander, but Love just seemed to miss him. And I know those two will connect at some point. And he did have a Moss-like catch on Jair in practice this week. So you may get 1 or 2 of those on him in camp, and who knows if he's going at 100%, and he'll end up getting his and bait you at some point. But that is one thing that Romeo Doubs last night had a couple of opportunities to bring in some deep passes for touchdowns.
Yeah, it's there's kind of the theme is there's going to be growing pains, but I'm intrigued because this is a lot of young, fast talent, and this is we're not used to speed like this. I truly think Packer fans who haven't really been paying attention in what we added are going to be shocked when they actually take the field of how much faster this team got. Doubs is going to be a really great 2. He could push, for the 1 spot. I'm still under the impression of he's going to get more targets than Watson. Watson will have the greater production in terms of the yards and the touchdowns, but Doubs will have more targets. You have Reed who could take the middle of the field. You have Musgrave that could take the middle of the field. You have Kraft that's a possession and blocking tight end. And then you can get Aaron Jones out on screen passes and swingers and just keep you honest in the run game. It's all going to be about can Love facilitate and be accurate. We're at
we're taking. So you're saying that it's going to take a little bit of time for the offense to take flight.
Yeah, there you go. Perfect timing. There'll be rookie mistakes in terms of wrong routes, misassignments, that type of stuff. But I don't think anyone can argue that if these guys get fed the ball, any one of these guys could just take it to the house.
Dave, are you thinking that one thing that just came to mind, that the angle of this is just like when we had MVS, which that was new speed that we haven't seen in quite some time, legit 4.3 burner speed. his rookie season, even the second season, it took Aaron Rodgers quite some time to mesh with him and get it dialed in. Underthrows, overthrows, truly click. Do you think that same sort of thing is going to happen with this offense, where it's taken Love a little bit of time to be like, all right, I got Christian Watson, like just throw it out there as far as I can and let him run underneath of it? Do you think that's like going to be a product of why it'll take this offense some time to sink and get in rhythm? Is Love getting used to the speed that he has at tight end and wide receiver?
Yeah, that's a good point of yours. That very well could be. Could also just be not repping with the ones and having to get used to a whole new cast of characters for him. Could be the slight pressure with, being the quarterback of the greatest franchise in the NFL. I don't think Love is going to be bad. I just think there's going to be throws that people have 2 or 3 steps on them, and it's going to be airmailed. And you're just going to be like, Rodgers would have hit that. Well, Rodgers took some time to turn into Rodgers too. So we'll get there, but it's just all really it's exciting stuff. I mean, I don't play it all that much anymore. I'm older. I have a family now. I just can't play the video games. But it's like kind of when you traded all the players away and got all new players in your Madden franchise. And it's like, okay, it's a fresh start. I can get excited and all that stuff. But it's going to take some time.
Who do you think's patience is going to get tested more this year? Mine or yours?
I think it depends on the game, because I think different things frustrate us. That's a great question. That is great.
Because last night my patience was tested at family night with my head, my hands, watching most of it. I'm like, keep it together, Jordan. It's gonna be all right. This is a fun family night. Don't take it all too serious. But last night did bring out the patience and being like, all right, let's take a deep breath.
The funny thing is, you're kind of more defensive minded and I'm more offensive minded, but the defense frustrates me more than the offense, and the offense frustrates you more than the defense. Because when we're on defense, there's plenty of times I throw a text your way like, man, I really love when we're playing 12 yards off and it's 3rd and 5. And you're just like, yeah, I don't know what to tell you. And then on offense, you'll just be like, that is the dumbest play design I've ever seen.
Yeah. Which is good. That's a nice even round. We haven't even really talked about, outside of Goodson going for the RB3 role, we haven't really, think about it. All throughout training camp, it's just there's such a rock for us that we don't have to talk about Aaron Jones and A.J. Dillon.
I think that now you got motorcycles zooming by. You got Fast and Furious over there. I think
they're trying to wake me up.
More so than previous years, which is odd because it's such a young team. You have a lot of positions already locked down. It's just like when you take high draft picks, you just expect them to start, and if they fail, you just draft another one, because that's like, I love Torrey, but Torrey's a 4. Like, you brought it up. Jaden Reed's locked down that 3 spot. Like Musgrave, okay, what? You're going to throw Tyler Davis in there? Like, no, Musgrave's going to lock down your tight end 1. Watson and Dobbs, they've showed promise last year, and I don't think there's an argument for anyone else to take those spots away from them. Love's obviously the starter, and then there's some question on the offensive line. The defense is pretty much you're rolling out the exact same defense that you had last year with maybe an addition to 1 or 2 spots.
That's a good way to sum it up. I got a question for you, Dave, before we wrap. I know you want to keep this thing at about the 40 mark.
Got some time.
Preseason's one week of way. We go to the Bengals next week. I think we have a joint practice with them. If it's up to you, you're calling the shots. What's the rep distribution you're giving to the starters throughout practice? Like everything that I've mentioned and what you've seen throughout practice and family night. Like, how much are you playing the ones and even specific players? I mean, we can kind of put off to the side, maybe Bach and Elton, and AJ Dillon and Aaron Jones, but it's up to you. Matt LaFleur is giving you a call. How much are you playing our starters on offense? Defense, I also think that a lot of those guys could sit. No,
those guys are sitting. Do you want what I would do and then what my prediction is, or do you want?
Yeah, how about both?
Okay. If I was doing it, I think besides Bach and Elton, that's pretty much your start. But the offensive line, you pretty much roll out your ones besides Bach, and I would be cautious with Elton too. Love first game. Be inclined to give him a half. I mean, that'd be nice. I think you could sit Aaron Jones. You can run AJ Dillon if you wanted to. Wide receiver is interesting for me because I don't think you should play Watson at all. He has a history of soft tissue injuries, concussions, just kind of being a little bit on the fragile side. I mean, I know you're an NFL player and you get hit by a truck pretty much every other week, but in terms of NFL standards, you've been kind of a little bit nicked up. So maybe you roll out like Dobbs and then the rest of the guys. I mean, I know Dobbs locked on his spot, so I'd be okay if Dobbs didn't. But I mean, you want the guys throwing to Love. You want Love throwing to the guys that he would throw to, right? That makes sense. But there's just certain guys that I'd be really cautious of.
So you're going at least a half for the more inexperienced, your Love and wide
I think you're going to see a
receivers.
lot more Love than you ever saw of Rodgers in the preseason.
So you're giving him a half. Now, expectations, how do you think it will actually pan out?
I could see him doing like 2 drives. Because LaFleur's going to say LaFleur's going to be like, we had the joint practice. We got all the reps we needed out of them. These guys are good. We want to see what the other guys have and these roles and, so on and so forth. So Love might not even play. LaFleur might just straight up say, no starters week 1. We got all the work we needed in practice this week.
I was just about to say, here's a little bit of like a conflict between coaches and leadership. I've heard now Mark Murphy and Brian Goody both say on different occasions that they want these young players to get reps in the preseason. But then you got LaFleur, and it's that kind of you got to tote the line of, hey, I want to protect their health, their safety, the players' CBA. But then you have your front office that they really want to, get these guys out there in as many reps as possible. The way they looked family night, if they would have came out much more smooth, I'd have been like, yeah, a few drives or quarters fine by me. But after last night, I want to roll them out there as much as possible. Maybe even if I'm calling the shots, I'm putting Love and the receivers and tight ends out there for 3 quarters. That's pretty aggressive, I know, but that's from what I've seen, that's how much I'd play them.
Can you just turn injury off like you do in the video game?
I think so.
I got a question for you because it kind of triggered something with me. And if I get a little bit of heat for this, I get a little bit of heat for this. But
we like hot takes. I don't think we've had a hot take in a minute.
Yeah. Trying to gather here. Okay, so the Packers, in my opinion, have a tendency to hire coaches that don't have that I'm going to put my foot on your throat mentality. So let me clarify here. Mike McCarthy was actually pretty hard ass in practice in terms of working the guys and doing all that stuff, getting the reps and doing what he needed. And then when it came to his game management, he just didn't have that I'm going to turn into a serial killer here and I'm just going to end this thing. Like I have the greatest quarterback in the world here. All I need is a first down to ice this thing. I could throw a quick slant and end this thing, but instead I'm going to hand the ball off 3 times and we're punting and we just lost by 3. McCarthy was game management, which drove me insane, but at least he worked those guys like asses off and he got the installments and no one could say those guys weren't prepared. LaFleur is soft when it comes to practice and when it comes to like getting reps and when it comes to working the guys to build them up to the season, in my opinion.
You're right.
I like LaFleur a lot, and I think his game plans match up really well, and I think that he has the balls to run certain schemes and certain routes in terms of go routes on 3rd and 1 or 3rd and 3 when it's like, okay, all you need is 3 yards, like game's over. No, screw that. We're going 40 yards down the field, and we're just going to end this out with a bang. He has a lot more of those than McCarthy ever did. Problem is, there's been rumblings probably in the locker room in years past, and there's been rumblings with the fan base that says doesn't play the guys in preseason, sits guys out at practice unnecessarily, doesn't do live tackling drills, is really hesitant to put the pads on. Some of that is CBA stuff, I get it, but he's really laxed in practice. I mean, players coach for sure, but kind of not like a leader of men in terms of this is my way or the highway.
So your question is, I thought there
was no question. That's my
you wanted to get it off. You wanted to get it off your chest.
No, that's my hot take.
Yes,
and I want to think
I don't even know
what your opinion is, because like imagine if you had a Mike Tomlin in Green Bay, of just like no holds barred, no shit taken. I mean,
and you saw it too with McCarthy. Like now, I mean, since you're bringing it up, it's coming back to me of how many hamstring injuries like the hot tub players with Clay Matthews and Morgan Burnett that had hamstring injuries all throughout the season. That he did push them hard in practice, and then the thing that I keep thinking of with LaFleur is how many times we've came out in week one just
perfect. Yep.
So flat, and the team's not ready, even though they say they are. And it takes us like an additional 3 games to really get things going. That we predicted a couple months ago that we could potentially be off to like a 3-1 start. And I expected some changes to happen. We'll see how it pans out in the preseason games, whether we give starters reps or not. But even though we have the schedule to potentially go up 3-1 or maybe 2-2 early on, we could be facing a similar fate of another, tough coming out of the gates, and the Bears getting the best of us week 1, and they're thinking that they're heading to the playoffs.
Yeah, you mentioned it. My gripe has always been week 1 after the bye, and then long travel, like on the road travels. We just get our doors blown off.
We just don't show up.
It's just like everyone in Packer Nation is hyped for this game. Like, you don't even need to be in Green Bay. You got Packer fans around the world just like showing more enthusiasm than what you guys are producing. Like, I don't know how you don't get up for a game like in San Francisco or a night game in Seattle or week 1 of the season, or it's like, wow, we just lost coming out of into the bye. We got 10 days of rest. I could go out to, my Malibu home with no Wi-Fi, relax for a while, and we'll put up 9 points the next week. It's like, what are you doing?
That's happened for the first 3 years too.
It's a trend. That's my that's my thing with it.
And your take is that you almost see it. You see that trend continuing this season too, or just.
I mean, I hope it's not week 1, but yeah, I think that's his MO. I think his MO is I'm gonna be, I'm gonna be kind of player's best friend here, and we'll get our work done, and don't want to push him all that too hard, and then I'll just be. And there's results, don't get me wrong. He's got the resume with the win-loss record to back it up, and the injury track record on the team. Guys aren't going down with just soft tissue issues, but it seems like there could be a little bit more emphasis in practice. And he mentions it all the time in the press conference. Oh, man, we're a little bit sluggish. We need more emphasis on this. That's your job. That's why you're hired, is to push those buttons that make guys do that.
To put a nice spin on it, glass half full, because I like to think we approach. I mean, yeah, we're critical. I could be much more critical than what we've put on so far. But
that's why we founded this company. We can say what we want.
To be glass half full on this. Greg Williams, new DBs coach. He also goes by G Money, according to Jair. Ran into him a couple times. Great guy. See him in these training camp practices. Very involved. Even Jair called out in his locker room presser that he's been playing too far off the ball when he gets in the zone. I think one thing that we can at least be assured by, fingers crossed, starting off in the season, that we're going to let our cornerbacks play press man and however they want and be aggressive, up in your face, and you pay these guys the big bucks, let them do what they are best. So while the MO could remain the same on offense, I think Joe Barry having a talking to with his players and a true sit down, that we could be seeing something different on defense and dictating much more than what we have in years past.
Jordan,
there's my positive sort of spin on it, because I can't really I can't really debate what you said on the offensive side of the ball.
I hope you're right, but my fear is they're not showing practices and they don't want people taking video because the cornerbacks are playing 9 yards off and they don't want to show the people around the league that they're just going to do the same old.
That could very well be it too.
Yeah, it took what till week 9 of last year to have a player mutiny to be like, Barry, the players are going to fire you if you don't just listen to them.
Yeah, Jerry Gray's about to walk out of the building.
All right, man. So that kind of wraps it up. We'll have some preseason talk next week. So that'll be exciting to be able to kind of discuss live action against another team, actually bringing people to the ground and all that fun stuff. And we're ramping up here, man. I mean, I'm 6 weeks away from seeing a regular season game in Green Bay, and that's not till the Lions game on Thursday night. So we're fast approaching here.
It's going to be over in a blink of an eye. Dave, last question for anybody to be who's your player to keep an eye on for the Bengals game?
I got a couple. I mean, obviously you've mentioned Malik, Heath about 9 times on this broadcast.
That's it.
I have Carl Brooks. I
already bought a jersey of Malik Heath.
Go for it, man. Perfect. Love the investment. Get him on the show. I have Carl Brooks. I have Valentine, and then I have running back 3. I have a strong showing from Goodson. I mean, Nicholas can push him. I heard Nicholas got banged up in practice, but that's kind of my big 3 right there. Running back 3, Carl Brooks, and Valentine.
Okay.
And then the safety.
Who do you think? So do you think Goodson's going to be our featured back for preseason? LaFleur did say that he's going to feature a running back
out there. Game. I mean, AJ Dillon, I don't think he needs the reps in preseason, and I don't think Aaron Jones needs it either. So just battle it out for RB3.
There you have it. That's the position group.
Wait, who are you 3?
Oh, I have to pick 3 guys.
2? Just anyone but Malik Heath. Who else besides Malik Heath do you want to watch?
All right, I'm gonna go Tucker Kraft on offense.
Okay.
And then on defense, I will go with Jonathan Owens.
There you go. All right.
Yep.
All right, man. Have another great week in Green Bay. Another good week in practice. Some Titletown beers, and then we'll talk soon.
Absolutely. Cheers to all. Salute.
Yes, sir. Hair on the dog.
Absolutely.
All right, man. Peace out.